EFT tapping is a science-backed way to work with the body to release stress fast. Today, I'll show you how it works, why it works, and we'll even have a chance to tap together so you can feel the shift for yourself. Let's get into it. As a certified EFT tapping practitioner, I have seen firsthand how powerful this technique is for softening or completely releasing stress and emotional tension around certain events in your life, past, present, or future. It's something that I use in my own practice and I use with my clients whenever they're feeling depleting emotions like overwhelm, frustration, or anxiety. Now, a quick note before we get started. This basic EFT tapping practice is used for everyday stresses, frustrations, or emotional intensities. But if you're dealing with something more serious, like a deep trauma or significant emotional event, it's important to work with a trained EFT practitioner. Tapping is not a replacement for medical or professional help. You can almost think of it as a powerful self-regulation tool that you can use in the moment. So, how does tapping work? EFT tapping is based on acupuncture points used in traditional Chinese medicine. And by tapping on specific meridian points, as you see me doing now, as you focus on an emotional challenge, what happens is you send calming signals to the brain, which lowers stress hormones like cortisol and shifts your nervous system out of that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. Now, before we actually get a chance to practice and tap together, let's quickly go over the tapping points on the body so you can get familiar with them. And feel free to practice this along with me. We'll start by tapping on the side of the hand. And you can use either hand, whichever feels comfortable. And we'll use a pressure that's not too soft and gentle to where you can't really feel it, but you're also not hurting yourself to where it's too hard. Just kind of finding a nice pressure there, somewhere in the middle. And we'll always start here on what we call the karate chop point on the side of the hand. And then we'll go all the way up to the tip top of the head, the crown. You can use one hand or you can use both hands. Research shows that either has the same level of impact. And then we'll tap on the eyebrow point, which is kind of that inner edge of the eyebrows. We'll use 2 or 3 fingers there. Again, you can use one hand or 2 hands. The next point is on the side of the eye. Again, 2 hands, 1 hand. And then under the eye, kind of on that bone there underneath your eye. Then you'll tap under the nose, right between the nose and lip area. On this point, we usually use one hand. The next point is on the chin. And then your collarbone, kind of like you're wearing a skinny tie. Again, you can use 2 hands, or some people like to use 1 hand. And lastly, we'll go underneath the arms, what I like to call the monkey point. So you can tap with both hands, or again, just using 1 hand. All right, so feel free to kind of rest your hands. And now that we've got those points down, remember we always start on the side of the hand, then we go all the way up to the top of the head and work our way down. Let's walk through the actual basic tapping technique, step by step, so that way we can actually practice around together. Now, anytime before we start tapping, we need to get really clear on what we're actually tapping on. So step 1 is to pick a specific event, a specific moment in your life that, as you think about it now, still activates some depleting or negative emotions. And in this case, the word specific is really key here. So for example, you're not going to choose a very general issue to tap on, like a fear of public speaking. You want to choose a specific event, like for example, a moment last week where your heart started racing really, really fast before a presentation. It's almost like you're imagining a movie of your whole life, and you're just choosing one specific scene or moment in that movie to tap on. Now, what happens is that even though we're just tapping on one specific event, you'll start to notice a shift in your overall response. Like what used to trigger you just won't hit the same way anymore after consistent, regular practice. Step 2 is to consider, what are the emotions or emotion that I'm feeling right now in this moment as I focus on that event? And there might be one or more emotions here. So if we were to stick with that public speaking example, let's say now as you think of that moment that happened last week before your presentation, in this moment right now, you're still feeling embarrassment and frustration. And so that's going to be the emotion that you label, right? Emotions, embarrassment and frustration. And then you're going to tune in and notice, okay, embarrassment and frustration. Which emotion feels the most intense for me right now? And you'll kind of choose the one that has the most resonance. You can always tap on both, but you'll start with the one that's kind of the most active for you. So in this hypothetical example, we're just going to stick with frustration. Now, step 3 is we want to pause and consider the intensity of that emotion from 0 to 10. 10 being the most intense, as I focus on that specific event. And this 0 to 10 estimate is pretty subjective. It's based on your own experience right here, right now. So whatever it feels like for you in that moment, it's perfect. There's no right or wrong way to label from 0 to 10. So for our specific example, let's just say in this case, the frustration about the public speaking event is about a 5 in this moment right now. Step 4. We're going to ask ourselves next, where in or around my body am I feeling this emotion right now, if anywhere? So if that frustration, for example, were to land somewhere in the body, maybe it's the head, the shoulders, the chest, wherever it is, it's perfect. It doesn't have to make sense. You're just kind of trusting your gut here, your intuition. And so for this example, let's say that we feel the frustration that's about a level 5 out of 10 in our chest area. Great. So now at this point, we have a specific event, the presentation from last week. We have the strongest emotion that we feel right now as we consider that event, which is frustration. We have how intense it is for us from 0 to 10, which in this case is a 5. And where in or around our body we can find that emotion, which let's say the frustration lands in the chest. Now we're ready to tap. So we're going to start by saying what's called a setup statement as we tap on the side of the hand on that karate chop point. And we'll repeat that setup statement 3 times as we tap on the side of the hand. And again, you can use either hand, whichever one feels most comfortable for you. Same level of efficacy here. And as we keep tapping on the side of the hand, you'll repeat this statement and fill in the blank. It goes like this. Even though I feel this emotion in my body location about some specific issue, and I feel this emotion because, and then you'll describe why you feel this way, I deeply and completely accept myself. Or if that statement doesn't ring true, I accept that this is how I feel right now. And that's called your setup statement, and you'll repeat that 3 times. So if we were to stick with our example, we can say, even though I feel this frustration in my chest about that moment when my heart started racing before my presentation last week, and I feel this frustration because I wish I didn't get so nervous before it was my turn to present, I deeply and completely accept myself. Or I accept that this is how I feel right now. And then we'll just repeat that 3 times, tapping on the side of the hand. After we repeat 3 times is when we start tapping on the top of the head and work our way down to the eyebrow point, side of the eye, under the nose, the chin, the collarbone, and under the arms. And as we tap on those points, we repeat a little reminder phrase, which is also fill in the blank. And it goes, this emotion in my body location. So for example, we'll just tap on the points on the body and say, this frustration in my chest. This frustration in my chest. This frustration in my chest. Or just say, this frustration, this frustration, this frustration. And work our way down. And that's considered 1 round of tapping. So after you complete, you'll rest your hands. You can take a nice deep breath in and out the mouth. And you'll notice, okay, where is that emotion now on a scale from 0 to 10? So let's say maybe the frustration started at a 5 out of 10, and now you're noticing, all right, I'm kind of checking back in, and it's at a 3 out of 10. And you'll repeat this as many times as needed until you get to ideally a 0 or below a 2. But even if it's not at a 0 yet out of 10, what happens is when we release the emotion from an event, then our perception changes. We start to get learnings or positive resources that we can take with us into the future. So let's say the frustration went down to 0, but maybe I'm still noticing some other emotions that are there, like the embarrassment or the anger or sadness or guilt. Then we want to tap on the next strongest emotion and soften or release that one as well. And oftentimes what you'll see is that when you work with the strongest emotion, then the other emotions will soften or maybe even completely release as well. And if you need to do another round, then again, you'll just repeat the steps, adjusting your statements as needed, until you notice that either the emotion or the body location of the kind of sensation has changed. Now, a little brief note, sometimes when we tap, the intensity from 0 to 10 can go up a little bit after the first round. And that's okay. It just means that maybe we've activated those emotions. It's perfectly fine. Just continue doing another round, repeating the same steps, doing it again, and you'll find that as you continue to practice, it'll start to soften and lower in intensity. All right, so let's practice a round of EFT tapping together now. Step 1, I invite you to begin by finding a specific event or moment in time that as you focus on it now, it still activates negative emotions. And feel free to pause the video if you need some extra time on any of these steps. Step 2 is to recognize what are the emotions or the emotion that I'm feeling right now as I think about that event. And if there are multiple emotions, remember, just start with the first one that has the most resonance for you. Step 3 is once you've picked that emotion, notice from 0 to 10 how intense that emotion is for you. And step 4, notice if you were holding that emotion or it landed somewhere in the body or around the body, where would that be? Perfect. So now you have all the components that we need to start with our setup statement. So let's start by saying the setup statement while tapping on the side of the hand, either out loud or in your head. Feel free to join me now, tapping on the side of your hand. And feel free to fill in the blank here, almost like you're kind of watching Dora the Explorer. Even though I feel this in my about, and I feel this because I deeply and completely accept myself. Or if that doesn't feel true, I accept that this is how I feel right now. Good. Let's repeat this 2 more times. Even though I feel this in my about, and I feel this because I deeply and completely accept myself. Or I accept that this is how I feel right now. Good. Last time. Even though I feel this in my about, and I feel this because I deeply and completely accept myself. Or I accept that this is how I feel right now. Good. So now let's tap on the different points on the body as we repeat that reminder phrase of this emotion in my body location, or just this emotion. Tapping on the top of the head, this in my, on the eyebrow, this in my, on the side of the eye, this in my, under the eye, this in my, under the nose, this in my, on the chin, this in my, collarbone, this in my, and under the arm, this in my. Very good. So if you'd like, you can rest your arms, take a nice stretch, a deep breath. Good. Now check back in and notice, where is that emotion now on a scale from 0 to 10? You'll likely find that it's decreased in its intensity. And if you'd like, you can always rewind this video and repeat a few more rounds if necessary. Now you might be wondering, when do I practice this EFT tapping technique? Well, you can practice this technique before an upcoming event to prepare in advance of something. In the moment, if you're feeling some depleting emotions and you kind of need a reset, or after an event has passed to be able to shift your energy moving forward. So that's all for today. I hope that this video was helpful for you. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll love this next one where we explore another self-regulation tool called havening, a tool that uses gentle touch for reducing stress and building resilience. Sending you love.